Raw before WrestleMania is in the books, and now we're just one show away from the two-night spectacular of WrestleMania, which of course is Friday night SmackDown. We got the Hall of Fame, the roast of WrestleMania, and a lot of other stuff during the week. And for podcasters, streamers, this is the busiest week of the year when you think of the amount of review shows we've got to be doing. So I may my voice may go by the end of this week. I don't know, but we're going to get into Monday Night Raw, and as usual, the Raw before WrestleMania, very promo heavy in this. A lot of them were, a lot of the bigger stars were kind of kept away from action, obviously injury and whatnot. A couple of bits of intrigue coming up as well. But we do get the start of Raw is indeed a promo or an interview, shall we say, from World Heavyweight Champion Gunther, who will be taking on, of course, main event Jey Uso at WrestleMania. And I tell you what, this was a promo from Gunther that showed a bit of fire. That I think he's had peaks and troughs, Gunther, in since he's been champion. And Brett, I don't know if it's whether if that's the way he's been booked, if it's him, But this was the Gunther that we know and love. It's been a while since we felt this way. He sold the match really well, and he actually perhaps laid the groundwork for why he is gonna lose at WrestleMania. Jay gets under his skin, Gunther loses control, Jay will take advantage. It does seem as though he was writing his own obituary in a lot of ways for losing the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. But it was great. It was really good. Tossed the mic at the end. He was saying that, he wants to call his mother, tell how much he was destroying Jey Uso. Real fire promo. Loved it from Gunther. Yeah, kind of writing its own story though in there about perhaps losing the championship on WrestleMania Saturday. Not main event. Some people may agree or disagree with that. Excuse me, it's very early in the morning, so coffee time for me. So yeah, it was very Gunther was very good in this. Will Jey Uso walk out WrestleMania night one, the champion? What we're gonna do at the end of the show is we're gonna do night one predictions at the end of this. And then we'll do night two after I do SmackDown. SmackDown is happening. There's a lot of wrestling going on, but SmackDown will indeed be happening. So we'll do that and night two predictions on SmackDown. So yeah, great promo from Gunther. There was a couple of other backstage promos as wrestlers were getting ready for WrestleMania. Not really going to go into them. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's better we concentrate on the action and the in-ring stuff. There was a lot of backstage, Bianca Belair, the Ripleys, the people that you would normally, expect a promo from before WrestleMania. Um, we're not going to get into that though. What we will get into was Liv Morgan. She took on Bayley. Now they had their retrospective tag team partners on the outside of the ring. Liv had Raquel Rodriguez. Bayley had Lyra Valkyria. Really good match. This, it was a really good one, but at the same time, I think they've had better in the past. If that makes total any sense at all. I've been saying this a lot recently about the outside of the ring interferences on other review shows that I've done. And I think that's kind of it felt real forced this week on Raw. I don't like the fact that this tag match has been thrown together so late for WrestleMania. Lyra Valkyria should be defending, if anything, her women's Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. I feel as if her and Chelsea Green, so Chelsea Green's not defending the US title as of we speak today. She's not defending. And it just kind of really disappointing, really, for me that they're not. I feel as if these titles should mean something. And listen, so should the tag title. I'm not taking anything away from the tag team championship. Um, that should also have exactly the same feeling to it. It doesn't, and also like Bailey and Valkyria. There's no reason. Give me a reason to get behind them. There's no connection there. You know, I just wonder and this is a real shot in the dark here. And I know that she has come out recently and said she's not returning to wrestling anytime soon. I just wonder if they're going to do something with Bailey that prevents her from going into this match and Becky Lynch comes and takes her place. There is a story of her and Lyra. They're both Irish. There's a lot of bit, that's kind of my way of thinking here on this. Could they pull that one out the bag and have Becky Lynch be Lyra Valkyria's partner? Look, strange things happened at WrestleMania. It could happen. It would be far better if that happened than if Bailey wears tagging. She wants the Intercontinental title. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. It makes zero sense for her. Like I said, there's no connection with the team of Bailey and Lyra Valkyria. However, if they find a way of getting Becky Lynch involved, that could potentially be interesting. But we'll wait and see. Match itself, like I said, was good, but they've had better. Um, Moving on to the next match. Now, obviously, Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania takes on El Grande Americano, Chad Gable. And look, it's over. I know everyone loves it. I hate it. I just, not going to talk about that on the show today. He did take on, however, Julius Creed from American Made. It was very much a fun, quick match, devolved into chaos. You knew El Grande Americano was going to come out and interfere. And again, I make the point: interference, two matches, two interferences. A lot, or at least chaos ensues on the outside of the ring. Um, they did try hard to make a point about the angle, or to try and make people feel something about the angle. I do again when it comes to WrestleMania. I just felt this was a way of them putting Chad Gable on the card. There should be more to it than that. There's no, apart from the fact the story basically writes that Chad Gable wants to beat a lucha, and to beat a lucha, he has to turn into a lucha. I think that's kind of the way that they're going on this, although he is just a large coffee, right? El Grande Americano, is that not a large coffee? Which actually, if it's a coffee, Gable may be better. But no, all jokes aside, Mysterio picks up the win. Was never in doubt, really. You're not going to have Rey Mysterio lose just a few days before WrestleMania. Um, it could have done it where El Grande Americano cost him the match, but I just feel that pretty much everyone going into WrestleMania needs to be booked fairly strongly at this point. But I think the match itself between El Grande Americano and Rey Mysterio will be great. Chad Gable, for Christ's sake. It will be very, very good. But this match was fun. It was just fun, chaotic, lots of stuff going on the outside of the ring, which I'm just not a fan of. I think that's not a fan of it too much. I mean, we've seen it so much in these last few shows, not Raw in general. I mean, we review everything on near enough everything on the show. And the amount of time last week I was like, oh, more interference, and it started this week has started the same on here. But there we go. It is what it is. Again, it's early in the morning, guys. So cheers to you. Chin chin. Have your breakfast and listen to my dulcet tones. I bet you can't think of anything better to do on a Tuesday morning, right? But let's get back to the action. AJ Styles, Karrion Cross get in the mix. There's a good story there. We've seen Karrion Cross trying to get into the head of AJ Styles recently, and it's not quite I would say it's not quite working. We don't know whether it's working or not. What we do know is these two put on a great, great match this week. I must say, this was probably Karrion Cross's best match on the main roster. Styles gave him a lot on in there, to be honest, and Styles done his absolute best to elevate Karrion Cross, and I think it worked. I want to see more Karrion Cross on the TV. This is, he's doing so much great stuff out the back. He's getting into people's heads, and if you look at the wrestlers he's kind of got into the head of and how they've changed, Drew McIntyre was one. A little bit like Seth, Sami Zayn for a while, that he's done so much great stuff there. And I think a lot of people forgotten his in-ring ability was very, very good as well. And there is a big one for Karrion Cross. And although in defeat, AJ Styles did indeed pick up the victory. Um, Phenomenal forearm gets the victory done. AJ Styles wins. Karrion Cross can take a lot in defeat on that one. That's without question because it was a very, very good encounter. Bringing back his old theme as well, by the way, recently, which is great. Fall and pray, love that. At the end of the match, though, Logan Paul did indeed come out and hits that pulverizer finisher. That's a really good finisher, by the way. The pulverizer finisher on Styles. He sold that amazingly well again. You know, he did have to knock AJ out with a loaded punch. But Logan Paul again, Logan Paul, AJ Styles is gonna be great as well at WrestleMania. I just wonder if Karrion Cross may get involved in that match at WrestleMania. I just want to see more Karrion Cross on my TV. Nothing to do with Scarlett, but Karrion Cross is in terms of his wrestler ability, promos. Scarlett brings that a bit more attention to him at ringside as well. It's a very, very good pairing. Obviously, husband and wife, which is even better for them. But everything they do right now and everything they're doing, Karen Cross has done. It has been great. So they've done the White Six stuff for a while, but I think now's the time to focus on Karrion Cross. So there we go. Really good match though, by the way. I really, really enjoyed it. We was waiting to backstage. Paul Heyman was waiting for the arrival of the Tribal Chief because obviously him, Punk, and Rollins are going to have the final segment this week on Raw. They are main event in night one, so it's. Right, Jay Uso makes his way to the ring. Everyone's yeeting away. You know, he's locked in on his family. He's gonna walk out of WrestleMania the world heavyweight champion. Yeet, all of that. The usual stuff from Jey Uso here. I think he's gonna. I do think he's gonna do it. I think, as I said, I think Gunther has written his own obituary in attempts with the crowd there this week with his promo that he done. I really do think that Gunther's we're kind of going to go there. He's going to dominate in a lot of ways with Jey Uso, and then Jey Uso will come back. Maybe Gunther will go too far. Or Gunther could go too far and get DQ. That's a potential one as well. But Jey Uso, I wouldn't come out and say Jey Uso delivered the promo of a lifetime by any stretch. I think he done that the other week, to be fair. Maybe from an argumentative standpoint, you could say Jey Uso should have delivered the promo last week, this week. But you can't have too many weeks where Jey Uso's not a believable contender for Gunther. And I think he is now. I think at the start, not so much, but I'd now, as we get there, and you can kind of write it that he's going to do it, but there's a more of a belief in Jey Uso now that he's going to win the championship. So they've done a good job with that. His promo was fine. It's just standard stuff leading into WrestleMania, but a real good, solid, standard Jey Uso promo as we head towards night one of WrestleMania this coming Saturday. A potential dream match, really, on Raw was next. Finn Balor against Penta El Silamiero. They're going to be in that big Intercontinental Championship match alongside Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker. Funny point on this. Near the end of the match, Braun Breaker's theme music hits. Now, those of you that didn't see Raw last week, Breaker literally decapitates Carlito with a spear. Funnily enough, this week on Raw, Breaker's music hits. Carlito's on the outside, and it's just hilarious. He ran away. It was really, really good. Just a real fun match. Now, again, this week, again, and you was expecting it with Judgment Day. Dominic runs down, Carlito runs down, Breaker, everyone in that fatal four-way for the Intercontinental Championship, and you're just kind of like, you've had interference, and yeah, you've had more. And I can't, why are we having it? But you kind of understand it a bit more when there's four guys going for the Intercontinental Championship. Two of them are wrestling. You kind of understand that the other two will get involved. I get that. But when you've had it on and on and on, those first few matches as well, it's just come on. Do you know what I mean? Like, just cut the shit with it. It just frustrates me that, and maybe I've just watched too much wrestling over the last week, and they've all had the same stuff, and it just affects me. I don't know, but nevertheless, guys, come on, do we need it all the time? Anyway, long story short, after a really really fun match, as Balor set up his finish, Breaker comes out, Carlito runs away. Breaker runs over Balor, which caused a DQ victory for him. So Penta picked another loss, but there's a DQ loss, so that's fine. And then Breaker spears Dominic and Carlito, but he then tries to spear Penta, but he doesn't work for that. Penta lands a series of kicks on that. But yeah, really, really good. Um, it was a good match, fun match. The interference would have been, and the interference was more understandable on this one. But when you've had the interferences in the matches that we've just watched, and that was like the main event, um, is in the main match on Raw. So we're gonna get into the final segment right now. You just sit there and think, come on, like, really? And again, I've probably watched too much wrestling, and I'm going to be watching a hell of a lot of wrestling this week because it is the busiest week of the year. More on that in a minute. But we're in the parking lot right now as Roman Reigns still hasn't arrived, but CM Punk walked up and sat with Heyman. He says he's never seen Heyman so stressed, but he's going to ease his mind, he says, to look into Punk's eyes and see what he sees. Oh, it was hilarious because Paul Heyman went, the cult of personality. I thought that was great. Um, he said he should really see a true friend and who wouldn't put him in harm's way. And as he does that, Roman Reigns rocks up in his truck, of course. He sees Punk and he sees Punk and Heyman, ignores it. Paul Heyman tries to get his attention, but he just keeps on walking and walking and walking into the arena as the only tribal chief gets his way. Heyman was sort of trailing behind him like a lost dog. Um, which was funny. Heyman goes to hand him the mic. Reigns gets his own. Um, Reigns puts over the crowd for being loyal to their tribal chief. The crowd chants, "You fucked up," but Heyman. When Reigns asked Heyman why he betrayed him, and Heyman's quite true. He said it's not a betrayal. He said, "I'm just doing and paying the favor back, and I'm a loyal servant to that." He's paying the favor he owns. He says Reigns isn't getting screwed here. He doesn't owe a favor. He didn't ask for any help. Why does Reigns have to cover the tab for Heyman's dumbass favors? At that point, burn it down. Rollins comes out. And, he says that Reigns is finally starting to get it, but he still has to end Reigns at WrestleMania. He said it's like a history's most significant triple threat match. The winner will define the business moving forward, and it can't be Reigns or can't be Punk. He said the favors are a choice; they don't happen by accident. Rollins chose not to put Heyman in hospital last week. Heyman won't be in Punk's corner by chance. It was a choice. And then Rollins asked Reigns a question: why is Heyman choosing Punk over him? Reigns says Rollins is right. Heyman has made his choice, and so has he. And he decks Reigns and tosses the mic out of the ring. As Heyman then ecstatically proclaims and acknowledges the tribal chief, Reigns pushes him to the mat. Punk comes out, makes the save. He clothesline Reigns over the top. He checks on Heyman, turns around, bang, into a spear from Roman Reigns. And then Rollins hits Reigns in the back with a chair. Think back over a decade ago to the Shield bit. Bang, with the chair. And he hits Punk with a stomp. Now, the interesting bit here is the no words, but the interaction between Punk and Heyman. It's got a lot of people talking. It really has. It was to whether or not he's going to align with Seth Rollins. But I think with Seth Rollins standing tall at the end of Raw, it gets me to believe Roman or Punk will be going over at WrestleMania. My opinion on that, and we'll get into that in a minute. Um, you know, we will get into that in a second. But Roman, so the ending really did intrigue me more, and that's a good thing, right? Because you're thinking, here's Heyman. There is a lot of this is going, who's going to be? Um, siding, shall we say, with Paul Heyman, or who's Paul Heyman going to side with in this? Is he going to get to a point during this match where he's got to side with somebody, and then he's going to have to make that choice? And we'll see what choice it is. But look, a decent Raw. It's a standard go home to WrestleMania Raw. Lots of talking, nice bits of action in there. Way too much interference for me, but still looking good as we head into night one of WrestleMania. We do have SmackDown, as I said, on Friday as well, so we're going to get into that. But let's get into WrestleMania night one predictions. Probably one of my favorite predictions to do. We're going to go. This is on the Wikipedia page, so this is in Wikipedia order, guys. Um, Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair for the Women's Championship. Whew, there's a lot of animosity here. We've learned there's a lot of hit. Listen, whether this is true or not, whether the heat between these two is real, I don't know. Whether they went off script, there's a lot of reports saying that. So there's and that's also. I tend to think when there's that little bit of animosity there, it makes things a little bit better in the ring. They're professionals at the end of the day. They'll do what they've got to do. Um, Unfortunately for Tiffy, I do think Charlotte's going to walk out the women's champ. I don't want her to, don't get me wrong, but I just feel as if it's shaping up for her. The only doubt that I have of Charlotte winning it is perhaps, only perhaps, the fact that they've made Tiffy look a bit like she's been look like a very weak champion in this. I know she's had a lot of times where they've done a lot of moonsaults and lots of fighting with security and stuff. I don't think Tiffany's been pushed strong in this, but it's just whether I don't know whether they're going to just leave it or whether she's going to win it back. So I see an argument for Tiffany Stratton walking out of WrestleMania the women's champion, but I'm going to say Charlotte Flair picks up the victory. I don't want her to, but I just think that's the case. Just an FYI, Wikipedia. If you could really put some of these matches in a decent order, that would be great. So we're now going to be talking about Gunther and Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Again, for me, this is. I think the story's wrote itself now. I think Jey Uso wins that World Heavyweight Championship. It would have been nice if WrestleMania Night 1 had gone off the air with the Uso, sort of similar to Benoit and Guerrero that year at WrestleMania 20 when it went off the air with both of them two hugging and the confetti and whatnot. I would have liked that. But it's not going to happen because obviously they're not. They may even kick off WrestleMania Night 1. Those two, possible. But I do think the story's wrote itself. I think Gunther is going to drop here. Jay's going to get his moment to shine. I mean, he is over. There's no doubt about it. Is he going to be a good world champion? Well, that will be denoted in ticket sales and stuff like that. That's how you denote your champion. So we will see. But I think it is Jey Uso's time at WrestleMania. I think he will be the world heavyweight champion. Wouldn't surprise me, coming to think of it now, if they do like a draft thing at some point, and if he's still champion, he'll get drafted to SmackDown. Cody gets drafted to Raw. That's how I potentially see it. Or Cena gets drafted to Raw. John Cena could walk out of WrestleMania, the World Heavyweight Champion, on the SmackDown side of things. We'll see. For me, Jey Uso wins this match against Gunther at WrestleMania. Jade Cargill, Naomi. Jade Cargill. I don't think I can't see Naomi winning. I'm glad that Naomi's on the card, by the way, in a meaningful match in a meaningful feud. She come from TNA a couple of years ago after leaving the WWE. She done so well. She was in a real awkward position when she returned because it was like in the Royal Rumble. It's always difficult. But she now has that feud. She's the one that attacked Jade Cargill. Really like that. Really like what they've done there. And I think that although I think Naomi's going to get the win, sorry, Jade Cargill will get the win because it's revenge and all that stuff. Really happy for Naomi in the match at WrestleMania. But for me, Jade Cargill picks up the victory there. I do think this is going to be a night one of a lot of title changes, to be fair. The War Raiders and the Tag Team Championship against the New Day. I'm torn on this a little. What I would love to see is a massive swerve here. and Big E helps Kofi and Woods win the championships. Because, like, if you remember, when they turned on Big E, they kind of said, go home until you're ready, kind of thing. It weren't like you're out and stuff like that. It was kind of like, go home until you're ready and we made your decision or whatever. You know, I'm going to go with that. Big E comes in and helps the New Day win the tag team championships off the War Raiders. Match has not had a lot of build. There's not a big story around it. They had a match a week or so ago, I think, on Raw. So yeah, mediocre build. But for me, the New Day become tag champions again with the help of Big E returning to help the New Day because he wanted to be their manager, right? So he can do it just as a heel, not a face. There you go. You heard it here first. Clip that shit. um, LA Knight, Jacob Fatu, United States Championship. Again, another title change for me. Jacob Fatu deserves every little bit on this. He deserves to win the United States Championship. I think he will win the US Championship. LA Knights, I mean, this is his second reign. His first reign wasn't great. The second reign, has he really done a lot on this? I don't know. The only thing potentially that could happen is LA Knight retains Solo Sikoa, costs Jacob Fatu, and then Jacob Fatu flips and dismantles him. That could happen. And that's a possibility. I'm not leaving that one out there. That's definitely a possibility. But I'm going to go for Jacob Fatu to win United States Championship. So every championship on night one changes for me. So I'm bound to get a couple of wrong there, but I'm happy with that. I can handle that. But for me, Fatu should win it. As I said, the only thing I could see happening is Solo coming out, costing him the championship, and then maybe Fatu attacks Solo. That's the other point. El Grande Americano, Rey Mysterio. For me, the story has written itself here. El Grande Americano will indeed pick up the victory over the fantastic Luchador. Maybe we'll see it eventually be Chad Gable, and it's just a couple of weeks just to get to this point. Maybe, maybe. Or could they pull off, for those of you like me that are old, could they pull off the WrestleMania 9 when Doink and another Doink come out and done Crush? Those of you that remember, if not, go check it out. It's probably one of the worst WrestleManias in history. But Doink, and he had a second Doink there, and they've done this whole silhouette thing. Could that happen at WrestleMania here with El Grande Americano and Chad Gable? You could have Chad come out, El Grande Americano be in the ring. They could do a bit where it's under the ring type stuff. I still think El Grande Americano walks out with the victory at WrestleMania over Rey Mysterio. And then finally, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, obviously going to play a vital role in this. Don't think Rollins is going to do it. I think it's out of Punk and Roman. Punk's main. See, the way I look at this is Punk's main eventing. That's all he really cares about. So for me, with Punk main event in WrestleMania, for me, the Tribal Chief picks up the victory at WrestleMania Night 1. And Heyman aligns back with the Tribal Chief. That's how I see it. That's what I'm going to go with. There is an argument for both the others, Punk and Rollins, to win. I just think Punk's got his wish, the main event of WrestleMania. That's really what Punk wanted more than anything else. That's what Punk wanted. So with that in mind, I think Roman walks out of night 1 of WrestleMania. But guys, this has been the Raw review, or the Raw before WrestleMania review. There's so much stuff coming up. Big thanks to Jonathan Coachman, by the way, for coming on the show. That is already down in that playlist to go and check that out. We've got a week of wrestling. We got AEW. We got 2 TNAs. We've got the TNA Impact, and we got Unbreakable coming up as well. So we're going to be all over that this week as well. Progress Wrestling, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be covering that from Las Vegas. We're not going to Las Vegas. We'll be watching their Las Vegas show and giving that a review. Plus SmackDown, plus WrestleManias, plus an interview potentially as well. There's so much stuff coming up this week. NWA as well. That'll be tomorrow. Me and the wonderful Miss Vienna Lochran will be all over that. So we'll be coming. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for that. But keep it locked. HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, and all other social media outlets. Until tomorrow when we're back again, everybody. Buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.